Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at how to create -mpd files using ffmpeg. If we come across the ffmpeg site, there's a section here called dash with a block of code that is an example of how to create a -mpd file. And this block of code here will actually create multiple outputs. It will create various bit rates and sizes. So what I've done is I've downloaded this block of code and I'm going to show you how to use it. But what I've also done here is knock up a little script to make things easier. So I'll put links to this under the video, but if we come across here and then come to raw and save the file, there we go. And what I'm going to do now is just switch across to the terminal, and what I'm going to do is move that mpd-dash file script that I created into my bin directory. So I'm going to move that into my bin directory. If you don't have a bin directory set up, you can copy it to user local bin. So we're going to copy that across to my bin directory. So what we got here is a input file, which is a copy of Big Buck Bunny, which is a open source video. And what we've also got here is this script called dash demo, which is basically this block of code here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this block of code first of all and show you how this will output stuff, and then I'll show you the script that I knocked up. So if we have a look at this block of code here, what we'll see is it takes an input, and what it's doing here is it's actually using a libfdk AAC audio codec. Now this isn't actually included in a lot of versions of ffmpeg that are distributed. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to edit the block of code, because I know that I don't have the libfdk AAC encoder installed. And what this will do is this will create several outputs. You can see here we've got BV0 and BV1. So it's actually creating two different bit rates, an 800K and a 300K. And then we've got SV1, which is a size which is set to 320 170. And you can see here we've got profile V1 baseline, and then we have profile V0 main. So it's actually creating two different ffmpeg profiles. What I'm going to do is just switch across and open this, and first of all what I'm going to do is actually just change this to use purely AAC. So let me switch back to the terminal, and what I'm going to do is run the dash demo script, which is the example code from the ffmpeg site. So I'm just going to run this in the current directory with a /dash demo, and what you'll see is it's actually going through and it's actually creating chunks of video. So the way this works is it actually creates multiple little chunks of the video that are then referenced in the MPD file. This is basically how YouTube delivers videos using Dash, is that it takes a video and chops it up into, say, 10-15 second segments, and then you have a MPD file which you can play with a video player like MPV, and what will happen is it will then play all of those chunks sequentially. So this is actually just going through, and as you can see, this is about a 10-minute video, so I'm actually going to stop this. And what you'll see here is we've got a load of chunk files here. Chunk stream M4S, and we've got these sections here in it, stream M4S. So if I come across to the MPD it's created called out.mpd. This is the structure of the file, and it's a XML file. What you'll see in here is actually specifying the bandwidth, the width and the height, and all the sort of the different segments. So as you can see here, it's not actually listing multiple sort of chunks. It has a sort of syntax where it uses variables to create a list of all the chunks that it's created, rather than putting a list of all the segments in this file. So you may have seen M3U or M3U8 files that have a list of TS files inside them. This is quite similar, but as I said, its structure is slightly different in that you can see here chunk stream representation number, and it has all these sort of variables. So this is a more compact format. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to play that out file, mpv out.mpd, and you'll see here this is Big Buck Bunny. And if we have a look at this section here in the terminal, what you'll see is there are two video and audio streams. We've got video 1, video 2, audio 1 and audio 2, and you can see they have different bit rates and sizes. So we've got 1280, 720, and we've got 320, 170, and we have a audio bit rate of 4800 kilohertz and 2250 kilohertz, and that excuse me, that corresponds to these sections down here. As you can see, the bit rate and the sizes. So that's how that works. And let me just delete all these chunks. Well, probably going to be easier in the terminal. rm.m4s 4s. Okay, and we'll remove the out file as well. So what I'm going to do now is show you this little script that I knocked up here. And what we've got here is the script usage. Let me just increase the size here. So this is a POSIX shell script which will work on Linux, Mac, Unix and Windows using the Windows subsystem for Linux. And what we have here is a block of code that displays the script usage. We have some error messages. We have something that checks whether if you've run the script without any arguments. If you run the script without any arguments, it's going to display the help. We then have a section here with some default variables that we can override. So what we do is we set a output file, output date.mpd. And the reason why we do that is so that if you run the script multiple times, it will create a unique file name for the MPD. We then set a default video bit rate, audio bit rate, and a profile. The profiles are H.264 profiles, so you have like baseline, main, high, and these are used to with different players. So you can have things like mobile devices, and sometimes they can only play a certain profile. So it used to be that iPads and iOS devices could only like play a baseline or a main profile, whereas the high profile is a higher quality one that sometimes couldn't be played on those devices. What we have here next is the getOps, and this is how we pass in arguments to the script. Typically when you run a script, you may be used to running -h to display the help, and that's how we do that. We basically set up some what would you call it, options that we can pass to the script using like -i for the input, -V for the video bitrate, -A for the audio bitrate, -P for the profile, and -O for the out file. So these are the options that we can use, and this is the ffmpeg function that we're going to use to actually create the MPD file and all the segments. And as you can see here, what I've done is I've actually trimmed this down from the example on the ffmpeg site, so that it only creates one video and audio output as opposed to multiple. But of course you could change that if you want. This is just as a quick demo on how we do that. If we have a look here, we'll see what we've got is input, so -I input, and that's going to correspond to the name of the file or the stream that you pass in after the -I option. Then what we have here is this this video bitrate default. And what this does is this is a fallback device where if we specify -V and put in a video bitrate like 2000, it's going to set the video bitrate to 2000. But if you don't use the -V option to set a bitrate, it's going to fall back to the default video bitrate which we set up here, which I've set to 1000, which you could obviously change. And the same deal with the profile. So I set it to have a high profile by default, but if you pass in the -P option, you can set it to baseline or main. And we have the same bit of code down here for the audio. So if you pass in -A, you can set the audio rate to 4800 or 44100 or 22050, but it's going to default to 44100 here. And then at the end, what we have is the output. So you can specify -O, the output file name for the MPD file that you're going to create. But if you don't, what it's going to do is it's going to fall back to creating a output file name of output the time and date.mpd. And then at the bottom here, what we do is we run that function. So what I'll do is I'll run mpd-dash and then -H. And did I get to make it executable? I think I did. So changed-mod +X bin mpd-dash. So if you've installed that into user local bin, just put in changed-mod +X user local bin mpd-dash. And now if I run the script, it should display the help. So mpd-dash -H, create a -mpd file. And what it's doing here is it's actually showing you the command that you need to run. So mpd-dash -I, the input, -V, the video bit rate, -A, the audio rate, -P, and the profile that we want to use, -O, and the output.mpd. And you can see down here, these are all the corresponding options, -I for the input, V, A, P, and O. So what we're going to do is do the same thing that I just showed you with the example bit of code from the ffmpeg site with this script. So we're going to run mpd-dash, and let me just short-term memory loss there. So we've got -I, -V, -A, P, O. So mpd-dash, we're going to give it the input file. We'll set a video bit rate to say 2000. I like to put stuff in single quotes. So that single quotes. We'll set the audio rate to let's actually just check what the audio rate is first of all on this file. So the audio rate is 4800. Okay. So the dash input video bit rate 2000K, and the audio is going to be 4800. The profile we're going to set to high, and we'll give it the output name of output.mpd. And so that should be everything. So we've given it the input file. So this could also be a live stream, a M3U8 file or something like that. It's just I'm using a local file because I couldn't find any example live streams that were safe to use on YouTube and without any copyright issues. So I have tested this with an M3U8 live stream, but the stream that I was using to test it, I wouldn't be able to show you on YouTube because of copyright issues. So I'm just going to run that script now, and what you'll see is it's going to go through, and you can see down here the actual time. So this is actually a 10-minute video, so I'm not going to sit here and leave it to run for 10 minutes because that would be really boring, but you can see it's creating all the chunks, and as I said, typically chunks are usually sort of 10 to 15 seconds long. So what I'm going to do now is I'll leave it to get up a bit of head of steam, so 30 seconds should do it. And as you can see here, what we've done is we've created a load of different chunks. So if I were to actually play, see here it's not actually playing it, so let me just see if it actually worked. Yeah, there we go. So what you can see here is the size, 1280 720. We've got the audio rate set, and what it's doing is basically playing all the chunks sequentially, one after another. So that's how we can create a -mpd file really easily using ffmpeg -l. As you can see here, the format that it creates is you have these init streams which have a .m4s extension, and then you have all these chunks down here and the output file, the output.mpd. So if I come across to here and open the output.mpd, you can see this is a XML file, and these are the what I call the namespaces that determine how the it has sort of like a format that it has to correspond to. So these are the sort of namespaces saying, you know, like XML instance dash. We have all this stuff down here basically that says this is the segment template. So this is what I was talking about. It creates this sort of syntax with variables that correspond to all the chunks. So instead of putting a list of hundreds of chunks in a text file, what it does is it has these sort of variables that it uses to pick up all the chunks that it's created, rather than just having a big long list of hundreds of chunks of TS files like you would get in an M3U8 file. So you can see here we've got the video MP4, we've got the codec, we've got the bandwidth, the width, the height. And then further down what we have is the audio. So the audio codec here, and the bandwidth and the audio sampling rate. And again, we have the segment template. And as you can see here, we have this media chunk stream representation ID-number and all these variables. And these are what are used to actually determine the format that it creates all the chunks in, the names that it uses to create the chunks. So that's basically how what an MPD file looks like. And this is what is used on YouTube to create live streaming videos. You may have sort of seen originally years and years and years ago. You may remember when YouTube first started, you could play a video in YouTube and open the network inspector, and you'll see something that says like video.flv. That's back when they were using FLV codecs. Typically now what you'd see in something that uses a Dash live stream is if you open the network inspector on a site that uses a Dash encoded video, what you'll find is a file called output.mpd, or something of a .mpd. And I showed you in a previous video how you can use tools like Streamlink to actually record a MPD file. So ffmpeg can also record MPD files, but the issue is sometimes what happens is people use different formats for the MPD file, and sometimes ffmpeg can't understand them. So what you can do is you can use a tool like Streamlink, which will examine the MPD file, find all the chunks, and then pass it off to ffmpeg to actually record the video into a single file. So that's what the MPD file looks like. That's how it creates all the chunk files. As you can see here, we have the chunk streams, and we have the init files here. So can we actually play the init? Now you can see if I try and play the init file or the chunk streams directly, it actually gives you an error. But if I run mpv output.mpd, you'll see what it's now doing is it's playing all those chunks sequentially one after another, so that it actually plays it as a video. And the advantage of this is that it the Dash format is that it makes it easier to stream small chunks and be able to seek into the video easily, rather than having to download having the video as one big video and it having to buffer a whole video. It's basically just buffering little chunks. So that's how it all works. We'll go back to the documentation. So this is the ffmpeg.org ffmpeg formats page. As you can see, this is the Dash section here, and this is explaining how it creates a MPD manifest and the segment files for all the streams. And you can see here it's basically explaining the identifiers that it uses. You can see here this is the sort of format. And again, the one thing that I changed here is by default this example uses the lib FDK AAC encoder, which is the Fraunhofer, or German is terrible, Fraunhofer or something like that. I think they originally did MP3s as well. There's a version that they did for MP3s, but I may be mistaken. So that's the one thing I changed here, was changing this just to AAC, because the libfdk AAC encoder isn't included in a lot of ffmpeg sort of what would you call it? It's not included in a lot of packages for things like Ubuntu or whatever. Sometimes you have to install that separately, and it can be a bit of a pain. But you'll see here in this example, what we have is two maps, and that's because what they're doing in this example is actually creating two streams. So in this example, what it's doing is it's creating two video and audio streams that have different bit rates and different sizes. And this is used because sometimes, if it will sort of fall back, basically, if you haven't got enough bandwidth or something, it will fall back to the lower quality version. So this is a way to actually specify multiple different bit rates in the MPD file, and different video sizes and different profiles. As you can see here, we have a baseline profile and a main profile. And I think this key in it is basically, I haven't gone through all the this section down here. This is all the sort of, stuff you can read up on. I can't remember if that's the actual segment size, but here, say you've got sort of the audio bit rate, window size. You can read about all these options, and as you can see, the output is format dash, and then path to the video file. So that's how you can create a dash mpd file with ffmpeg. And again, what I've done here is knock up a little script, and as I say, all we did was downloaded the script, came across here, downloaded it. We copied the script to either bin mpd-dash, or you can copy it to user local bin. And of course, you need to make it executable. Change mod +X mpd-dash, like that. And then all we did was run the script mpd-dash with the -H option, which gave us the format that we need to use and the options we can pass to the script. And as I said, you can use this with a local file or a remote live stream, like an M3U8 or another format. So that's basically how you can create a MPD file, and you can see here we've got all the chunks. We've got the output.mpd, and said I have tested this on a M3U file, but I just couldn't find a M3U file that was safe to demo on YouTube. So I basically used a copy of Big Buck Bunny here as an example. That's how you can create a dash stream from a local file or remote file using ffmpeg.